I'm just glad he's paying me because Mike is just an
Rolling.
What? Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages, it's time for your weekly Fix the Funny. Can I get another one of these? I'm gonna need this. I'm about to do this shit. So I'm okay, I swallowed it. So grab a cocktail, take those pants off, and treat yourself to the sexy bald man that makes you tingle in your special place. Woo! I'm wrong! Got my mind on my money, my money on my mind, bitch! I'm house announcer Chet Jackson, and it's time for the Me, Myself, and I show with Mike Buncord! Are we done? Yes.
Me, myself, and I. It's me, myself, and I.
Hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Me, Myself, and I, episode 152. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 152 episodes right here, right now, Thursday. Happy Friday Eve, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt from Hawaii because it is Friday Eve. Thursday's done. You don't have to worry about Thursday anymore. And we got comments already. My friend, Mr. Jesse Baldwin says, sugar motherfucking free dog. Yes, sir. What's up, Jesse? Playa. Nice shirt, Michael B. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. And Dustin Wood says, make Mike buy Dustin the mask. I will eventually when this pandemic is over, hopefully. I don't know. I've been avoiding him. I'm cheap. I don't want to buy him a mask. Maybe I should buy him a mask. And maybe I got an idea. Next week, Dustin, you're getting your mask. You're getting your mask, sir. Yes, you are, but not the way you think it is. So, I don't know. I'm just rambling. I'm happy. It's Friday Eve, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy. We got a great show for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. A good friend of mine who I haven't seen in almost 8 years. Actually, it's been solid, almost 7, but you like to stretch it to 8 to make them feel guilty because they don't call or anything like that. But anyways, I haven't seen him in such a long time. I worked with him almost 8 years ago at the Looney Bin in Little Rock, Arkansas. He's a phenomenal comedian, and he's also a contributor writer to Gabriel Iglesias Specials. He had 3 specials, and he was a part of that. Let's see, what was the specials called? It was One Show Fits All, I'm Sorry for What I Said When I Was Hungry, and Fluffy's Food Adventure. He's the associate producer. He's the writer. Mr. Matt Golightly is here. He's waiting, and I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. But before that, let's just talk about what's important. Justice has been served. Yes, all of us are finally a little bit better that Derek Chauvin is going straight to hell, prison. And we're all happy. We are all, I know it's not justice for everything, but it's something. Good Lord. Could you imagine if he was innocent? The whole world would have went on fire. Bitcoin would have plummeted. Everything would have went crazy. And everyone's happy. And you know what? I'm glad he's going to prison. It's about time. People said about time the justice system did something. And it's, I just don't wish death upon him. I know that sounds crazy. I hope he becomes someone's bitch for life in prison. Is that better than death? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I can't believe the look on his face. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Look, check this out. Look at this. Look at the face he had. Check this out. Oh, my God. Look at his face as if he was... Look at this. Huh? What do you mean I'm guilty? Look at his face. He's shocked that he killed somebody, got away with it, and is being sentenced to death or being sentenced and being found guilty on all 3 charges. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I don't understand. You know what's great about this website with Derek Chauvin? Look on the right. It's Snoop Dogg. It's Black News. Look at this. He's like, huh? Just look at his face right here. What? Oh, me? Yeah. guilty. What do you mean? Wait. I'm white. This is bullshit. Wait, there's another count on me? I thought I was getting away with this. Negligence. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing as a white guy to kill a black guy. Stupid. Oh my God. Look, he's like, interesting. I'm getting sentenced to prison for murder. I thought racism exists, and I thought I was going to get away with it. Not today, buddy. Not today. And speaking of who's not racist, it's time for Dustin's Thoughts.
What's going on, everybody? I'm sorry I didn't get to do my thoughts last week, but I was interrupted and kidnapped by a psychotic person dressed as a bunny. So I'm back. It's very exciting. I've missed you all very, very much. I'm just going to talk about what I planned to talk about last week before all the kerfuffle. I wanted to say, I wanted to apologize to women in general, because in the past, I've been known to kind of scoff at them being like, you know, we deal with a lot more than men deal with. And I just didn't, like, for the most part, I just thought it was even. I didn't think anyone dealt with more than the other. But this week, I had two things happen to me that radically changed my mind. One, I was eating a bratwurst, and I bit in one end, and the other end was like the way it cooked. It was kind of curved. It squirted bratwurst juice right in my eye. And you guys were right. That stings like a lot. Also, because of my condition, as I've told you guys before, I'm missing my teeth. And I've noticed people, when I'm talking to them, looking at my mouth as I'm talking, but not really listening. And it's like, my eyes are up here. Like, I now have mouth cleavage, and it's very distracting, not being heard.
Mouth cleavage?
I do. I have mouth cleavage.
Hold on, man. You did such a great job me interrupting you on your punchline. You just kept plowing through. That was priceless, man.
I have to say, Mike, with the shirt, if you're going to wear that shirt, then at least play dead and let us do a Weekend at Bernie's podcast.
I was thinking of this is more of a Vice City. This is more of a Grand. I ran. Where's my money? I ran so far away. Another day. You excited for the show?
Entire franchise. The only line you remember is "Where's my money?"
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very exciting show today. Dustin, thank you for being here. I'm glad you're not kidnapped by Funny Bunny. He got away last time. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe you should check out last week's episode. Right after this, you can go check out the repodcast on youtube.com/MikeBComedy. So check out the episode, what we're talking about. Dustin's alive and well. But before I bring up Matt Golightly, let's just watch a clip of his stand-up. He's so funny. And God, he's well written. Great friend of mine. I can't wait. Watch. Just I'm done talking about him. I'm going to prove it to you how funny this guy is. Look, I was already watching it.
I know anybody got any good gifts for Christmas. My buddy got a Dallas Cowboys wristwatch. All right, yeah. And by the way, I'm a fan too, but come on, man, really? A Dallas Cowboys wristwatch? Like, I was like, well, does it tell Des Bryant what time to leave the field? You can grow if you want. That shit's funny, man. And guess what? I can do that joke again too. You want me to do it again? Yeah. I'll do it again. Watch this. Same joke, different punchline. Here we go. This shit again. Watch this. Really? A Dallas Cowboys wristwatch? Really? Does it run for 17 weeks and quit? It hurts to laugh at it, I know, fans. I'm a Cowboys fan too, but it hurts. Guess what? I do it again. Guess what? Do it again. We'll do it again. For punch, I'll do it again. I want the same joke for punch. Here we go. Really? That was Cowboys wristwatch? Could you please set it back to 1993? He's just shaking his head. He's got his view. on. He's like, man, I'm not laughing at this shit, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? I said, are you ready? I know you're ready because I'm ready. You've seen him. What the hell is that? Oh my God, I hear something else. Sorry, feedback. He is a comedian and he's a contributor writer to Mr. Gabriel Iglesias. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Matt Golightly.
You said put your hands together because they're at home clapping.
Why not? They should. They should. You know what? Hold on. Dustin, are you at home clapping? Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to give you the respect online. This is not a Zoom show. This is a podcast. And you're like, I like how you're just posing with that background.
Yeah,
I should be wearing, look at that should be my background with this
shirt made my backdrop. You know what you look like? You remember that doll from back in the day called Moonies? And you would squeeze the thing and the pants would fall down?
Oh, shoot.
You look like a Moonie, bro.
Hold on, I want to show everybody. How do you spell that?
What?
Moonies? Oh, yes.
Remember Moonies, that little doll, and and you'd squeeze the little air thing, and his pants would fall, and he had a little Hawaiian shirt on, and you look like
my
a
God,
Moonie. That's what I shoot for. I shoot for the most vague references I can possibly get.
Dude, you're on the right show for vague references, my friend.
I knew that. Oh, there's one. They made one in a Hawaiian shirt. I promise they did.
I believe it. I believe it. How you doing, man? It's been forever, dude.
It's been too long. It's been 7 years, 8 years. It's been 4 years. It's been too long. That's how long it's been.
Way too long. First of all, your background, dude, is top notch, man. Is that like some Aztec? What is that? Is it flowers?
Let me tell you what's going on right now. I'm coming to you live from the bedroom of a 14-year-old girl, but not in an R. Kelly way. So calm down, everybody. Calm down.
Well, the funny thing was you were so very you were like, not by the way, guys. And the way you're sitting too, it's like
oh no, it looks bad. I agree. It looks bad. But it's worse, actually. Well, it's not worse than that. Nothing's worse than that. But it is bad. It's bad in a sense like, okay, I have a family. I have a 2-year-old daughter. I have a 14-year-old stepdaughter who I'm in her room. And I have a wife. And it's 10 o'clock on a Thursday night. And they're all in, like, and I'm hiding from them. So that I can do a podcast on me, myself, and I. And this is the spot. This is the one spot we decided in the house. I was like, I don't care. I'll do a podcast from a 14-year-old girl's bedroom.
The way you're laying too.
Oh yeah.
It's like very, very, very like, Kenny G.
Yeah, no, but you don't understand. This is the first time I've been comfortable and alone in 20 months. I have a 20-month-old, 22-month-old daughter. She's everywhere, and I love her to death. Don't get me wrong, but any second now, I expect her to show up at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Daddy, where are you? Like I expect that to happen at any point. She's asleep, by the way. But that's why I'm in the other side of the apartment, like as far away as possible, as humanly possible. I'm like, all right. Yeah,
well, first of all, thank you for being in a 14-year-old girl's room for the show. I appreciate that. It means a lot. It's so good to see you again.
This won't happen again until you book Chris D'Elia.
What's that?
It won't happen again until you book Chris D'Elia.
Holy shit.
It took me a second. I was like, wait, what? I won't be having them anytime soon. Don't worry.
Not after that, you won't.
No, not ever. No, I'm kidding.
I'm like, somebody cancel me. That'd be the best thing that ever happened to me. Do it.
Did it cancel?
Please.
Dude,
that's what's great about having no career, Mike, is you can say anything you want. When you have no real career, it makes no difference.
I know, right? When you have no connections and the world is at a pandemic, you have nothing. This is your shot to be the funniest person ever. You took that shot quick, too. You're like, fuck Chris D'Elia, and then she went straight right at it, dude. He's coming back. I saw like his YouTube videos are back up, and
I know.
Yeah.
I just say that because we're comics and we can't resist punchlines. We do when they're right there. Like I never met that guy. I'm sure none of that. There's no telling anymore. You can't trust anything you read anymore. You can't trust anything you hear anymore.
Right.
Who knows? Who knows what's going on?
No. So what you been up to, man, since for the past 8 years, 7 years? I always say 8, make it sound worse. But what you been up to for the past 7 years, man? Last time I saw you, man, we were at Little Rock. We were on the bus. I was on the bus station saying goodbye to you guys, and that was the last time I saw you guys.
Dude, that's crazy.
It was crazy. It was a crazy weekend too, man. We worked with Rick Gutierrez, and Rick Gutierrez is pretty much Gabriel Iglesias' best friend. Not just like friend in comedy, but best friend.
No,
and,
like best friend, like for real, like former roommates, best friend. Like lived in LA together for like 2.5, 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a funny story. Rick tells it much better, but yeah, he met Gabriel at the Latino Laugh Festival in San Antonio. And you know how whenever you become friends with a comic and you enjoy their company and whatnot, and you'll always say things, hey, if you're ever in town, man, just stop on by, anything you need, whatever, right? And so then Rick came out to LA one time and just showed up on Gabe's door. Didn't even call him first or text him, or no, you could text back then, but you didn't even call him or nothing first. He just showed up, knocked on his door, and Gabe answers and he goes, remember that time you said?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, they ended up getting a place together, and they were roommates for like 2 or 3 years.
Wow. How did you meet Rick Gutierrez?
Oh boy. Okay. That clip that you showed of me was, first of all, from around the time we last saw each other, I guess 2013. That is the now defunct River Center Comedy Club. It was downtown San Antonio. That's where I started my career. I used to go down there and do their free Midnight Madness show, and it was the last time I was actually up this late. Actually, it was the last time I was up this late. And
that's one thing about the pandemic. Comics go to bed early.
Oh, seriously, for real. Hey, when the baby goes to sleep, I go to sleep.
You have to.
That is how that works. And anyway, we'll talk more about that in a second. But yeah, so that club, that was my home club. And I went there and did all my first open mics there, everything. And that's where I met Rick. Rick saw me doing the Midnight Madness shows, and he saw me do my first couple of weeks emceeing. And, he watched a lot of comics. He saw a lot of comics, and he offered to take me on the road. And I'll give my friends credit at the time. My friends, they were looking out for me too. They were like, hey, be careful, man, because you're just starting out and you don't want to go to these clubs. If you don't do well, they're not going to book you back. So don't go out there too early. Legitimate concern. I appreciate them. It's a good friend. One's going to tell you that, and they weren't wrong. But the way I'm built and the way I'm put together, I hear something like that, and I'm like, if I go and I take these bookings and I don't do well enough to get booked back, that's not Rick's fault for inviting me. That's my fault. For not doing my due diligence and putting sets together and working hard. And so I started, and it was little towns first. It was smaller clubs. He wasn't taking me to New York or freaking LA. I mean, it was, we're going to Amarillo, and we're going to Lubbock, and we're going to Midland and Odessa, like little towns in Texas. And I took him up on it. And that's where I learned to stand in the back of the room and pay attention to other comics' acts. And if you have anything that might, hey, this punchline did better last night when you said it this way. Sometimes you use this tag, sometimes you don't. Is that on purpose? Are you just forgetting the tag? Or you not always remember it? Those types of things. I started doing that for Rick, and Rick subsequently did that for Gabe. And now both Rick and I do that for Gabe. That's what we do. Because when you hear this thing about writing, no one's writing for Gabriel Iglesias. That guy does all his writing on his own. He's a prolific writer, storyteller more than anything else. In fact, that's part of the reason why Rick and I are around, is because he'll throw out so much new material that he'll not have a show for 2 weeks, and he'll go up somewhere else and he'll completely forget that. Yeah, that bit.
Of course, especially if it's a new act. Yeah, how could you not forget? So you guys are the filters, and yeah, that's awesome. Well, I saw your system, how when we were working together at Little Rock, when Rick was up there, you were just in the back just writing down so many notes, and you were just a writing machine. And it's so funny, that week I learned so much from you and Rick. I can never go back to my old bad habits, man. You guys have these have comedy in your blood and your livelihood, that it shows and it oozes out when you're performing. It's so funny, man. I remember when I first met you, you were super, I'm coming from California. I don't know the feature act, or I don't know you, and I don't know Rick, and you were super, super nice. And then, Rick was trying to be intimidating. He did not want to like me. He was trying his best, but thank God for you, man. He was like the mean dad, and you were like the cool mom. Like, give him a chance, Rick. But we bonded really well, man, and that's what sucks about comedy is like when you're with someone for like a week, you guys bond so much, and then you just go your separate ways, and all right, see ya, that's it. It's just. How long were you touring with Rick after Little Rock?
Boy, I would say for the first 6 or 7 years of my career, I probably did 3/4 of my work with Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took a break for a while because thanks to working that much and that many opportunities, being on that many stages, I got good enough to where obviously I got the bump. I got the bump to headline in quite a few clubs. Certainly the smaller clubs, the mom and pop clubs, and then even like the nicer rooms, the improvs and stuff. I get some short weeks here and there where I'm headlining on Wednesday and Thursday and, featuring for some huge name or something on the weekend. Right. So I got to that point in my career. And so it didn't make sense to work with Rick much anymore or whatever, because, I was headlining a lot.
That must have been hard though, that transition though. That must have been really hard.
Well, it was exciting, but it was also difficult at the same time. And then I feel bad because that's not really like the business model's completely changed. I was one of the last ones to kind of start doing that. Now, those off nights, the Wednesdays and Thursdays, those short weeks, as we used to call them back then, they're not going to strong feature acts and young headliners like me at the time. Now they're going to Instagram stars.
Right.
They're going to people with big social media followings and whatnot. I feel bad for comics that are coming up now. Don't get me wrong, there's other ways that you can make your mark. You can like what you're doing. It's smart, the podcast.
Me, myself, and I.
Dude, for real, yeah. Make a sign, bitches.
I want your backdrop though, dude.
I know, right? I'm missing a sign. If I knew I was supposed to have a sign, I would have asked. I didn't know. We should do that, by the way. We should have dueling podcasts where we interview each other on our podcast. Like you booked me, but I booked you.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, so you ask a question, then I ask a question.
Yeah, that's a sketch. Like we both think we're interviewing. Like you're on my, no, aren't you a guest on, but you're a guest on my, no, man, like I'm the host. No, you're the, you don't think you're the host, do you?
Let's try it. We could try it. You do your beginning. Hi, my name's Mike Bancor. Welcome to Me, Myself, and I.
Hey, everybody. It's Matt Golightly here with me, Mattself, and wait.
Matt Golightly on Me, Myself, and I.
Wonderful guest on the show.
I got a great guest tonight. Matt Golightly is my guest on my show.
He's a guest on my show.
He's a guest on. No, you're a guest on my show.
Yeah, you have a. Yeah, nah, that's fine. I see what you're doing there, Mike. I see what you're doing there. That's clever. That's clever.
And poor Dustin's stuck in the middle. Which show are you going to be on, Dustin?
Yeah, now it's like when you're in court during divorce and they ask you what parent you want to live with.
Dustin would go with you, Matt, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going with the credits, obviously.
Yeah, right.
That's a mistake, though. Say that right now.
Hey, when you first started headlining, did you feel like there was pressure because you're representing Rick and you're also representing Gabriel?
Well, back then, I hadn't really met Gabe yet at all back then. So
okay.
But it definitely was Rick. But anybody, dude, that's another thing about this business is, when you put your name behind somebody, when you suggest somebody, I feel that way to this day. Anytime. Like, I don't care where somebody puts me on a stage. Like, I don't care if it's, if I'm doing a guest spot at some club, if I know that I'm there because one of my old school comedy friends, like a J.R. Brow, or somebody like Rick or somebody I've known from I always want to do well. And not just on stage, off stage as well. Right. I think that's where a lot of comedians maybe sometimes they think once the show's, I killed, man. I did my spot. I did great. And then after the show, I don't know, maybe they do some things where, and maybe drinking a little bit too much or whatever the case may be.
They act like it's punk rock comedy, like it's a punk rock show.
Yeah.
God save the Queen!
Yeah, bring in an entourage to do their 5-minute guest spot, and they
right.
Little things where it's whatever.
Wreck the hotel for no reason.
No, yeah, just silliness, right?
Yeah.
So I always feel like every single person who's ever put in a word for me, I'm representing them at the same time as myself. I take that very, very seriously. I never want. Because I've gotten calls where someone's called me about somebody that I've suggested. It hasn't happened a lot. But
it's always funny. The question is, hey, do you know so-and-so? Yeah. Are you friends with him? What happened? That's how it always.
Mine have been so much worse because mine always started with, hey, Matt, guess what your boy did? And I'm like, oh, okay, first of all, that's not my boy. First of all, I'm like, first of all, I thought he fit the gig. I mean, the show went okay, right? And then here it comes, whatever happened, right? And it's always been after the show. The show's always gone well.
Well, at least it's after the show, but still, that's still part of the. That's still part of the show, though.
That's part of the gig. Yes, it is. That's part of the booking, is to get along with everybody there and not be obnoxious to people and not be rude and whatever goes on or whatever.
Can you say a story without saying a name or no?
Well, I can just say that like one time I got a call from the owner of a comedy club who told me that someone that I was friends with and had suggested and still works the club to this day, so it wasn't that bad, but managed to get on his wife's nerves. Like, which, by the way, she's the nicest person on the planet. Like, she's nice. There's like, okay, the order of niceness, it goes, let's see how it goes here. It goes Gandhi, and then it goes this woman, and then Jesus, and then David Robinson, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's the
David Robinson.
Like, that's the order of nice, right?
Right.
If you rank the
then LeVar Burton right under that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how that goes. And I was like, I can't imagine how you could get on this person's nerves. I don't know how it can be done, but he pulled it off apparently, and not bad enough to where, like I said, he still works there, so it's not that big a deal. That's apparently. Cool. But yeah, I was like, really? And I've had that a handful. Was he
trying to hit on her, or just being like the comic booker?
Didn't even really ask for details, because I just tried to change the subject as quickly as I possibly
That's good.
could.
Like you're doing right now. That's great. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. So when you started work, what did it feel like, man? You're so modest, but what did it feel like when you got the word saying you're going to be a contributor writer to Gabriel Iglesias?
Oh, well, here's fun. Okay. See, the thing is, it's one of those deals where it wasn't, I didn't have enough time to even have that type of experience with it to be like, oh, like, I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to see if I can make this happen. Because here's how it went down. They had already taped the first episode. They called it Fluffy Breaks Even back then. They've now changed it. They've renamed it Fluffy's Food Adventures. But it was called Fluffy Breaks Even, and they had taped the first episode, and they had the rough cut done. And I happened to be working with Rick at a club in California. Gabe came out to hang out with Rick. I had met Gabe, 7 or 8 times before then. I had done some guest spots on his show. Things had always gone well, whatever. So afterwards, we go out to eat. Gabe whips out his phone, and he's like, hey, guys, watch this rough cut real quick and tell me what you think. And I think he was thinking like all comics do, like, I'm going to show them this rough cut, and they're going to say, man, that's awesome, Gabe, man. That's so great, blah, blah, blah. That's going to be, just going to be like the typical, like, oh, man, I'm so proud of you, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Well, I think he knew a little bit because he knows how Rick is about comedy, too. So Rick
is such a scholar when it comes to stand-up comedy, too.
Yeah, so he knew he found the right guys. And so Rick had very good things, good notes to take. And then same thing, I wrote stuff down, though. Like, I grabbed a pen and I wrote all these notes, and there were just some things that they were doing that I was like, hey, man, like, they're making fun of the workout, right? The place that they're doing the workout. It's like, if you make fun of all these places, the first couple episodes are going to come out the first season or whatever. People are going to see it. No one's going to want to be on your show because they're going to think you're going to make fun of the place instead of showcasing the place. And you can still be funny, without making fun. Without poking fun. And then the production company, which was great, by the way, they were really, really good. But for the rough cut, they were adding sound effects that were kind of cheesy. Like, there were just some things that they were doing where you could tell they were trying to be funny because it was a comedy show.
Right.
And so my note was like, hey, you guys are funny naturally. So just tape what you guys do. And then can we cut to a green screen and have you guys make witty comments on a green screen? So that's where you can set it up instead of trying to add it, like, overlay, silliness over the live action. So anyway, the point is I had a whole bunch of notes like that. I probably had like 6 or 7 notes like that. And so Gabe was just, just politely listening, and he's kind of nodding his head. And I didn't know if he was really taking it super serious, but he was like, okay, that's a good idea. So the next day he's like, he has a conference call, and we happen to be at the compound hanging out with Gabriel, and the conference call is about to start. And and he asked me to put some of those notes on cue cards, on like little index cards. So I had written the notes on index cards, and I handed it to him. And I was like, hey, here you go. It was like 7 cards. And I was like, here's the notes or whatever if you want to go over it with him. And he kind of starts flipping through them. And he kind of looks, and keep in mind that Gabe's, like I said, I've been on like 6 or 7 shows with him, and he knows me through Rick. That's about it, right? That's about
He's
it.
a mega star
Yeah.
too.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and this whole thing is like built around him. Fuse TV is building this whole thing around him to be like the pantheon, the monolith of their network. So he takes those things, he looks at him and he goes, you know what, man? Here you go, you just do it. And he hands the cards back to me and he puts me on the conference call with the production company. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah. So it's not one of those moments where instead of it being like, oh, I really want to do this, I'm going to put my resume in, I'm going to see if I can get hired. No, it just got thrown in my lap. But I was like, well, I mean, like I said, same thing when Rick asked me to go on the road. Same mindset. I'm like, hey, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not working for these people already, like right now. So I might as well just see what they have to say. Right. And don't get me wrong. I also didn't have a huge head about it. Like, I knew that these people were professionals, that they all had degrees in art and film and, and television. So these guys, I mean, they clearly knew what they were doing. So I went in not trying to in any way be like, hey guys, look, don't think for a second that I'm trying. Like, yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm just some stand-up comic or whatever. I just saw the episode. Here's a couple things I thought might be, beneficial or whatnot. Maybe see what you guys thought of these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because as the conference call went on, they were like, actually, Matt, like when I told them like, hey, like you guys don't have to worry about trying to be funny with sound effects and stuff like that. I know Alfred, I know G. Riley, I know Martine, I know Rick, I know Gabe well enough to know they're all so naturally funny that you can just tape these things and their funny things are going to happen. And then we can cut to maybe a green screen and have them say witty stuff after that or whatnot. You know what I mean? And they were like, you know what, man, we actually really appreciate that note because it takes a lot of pressure off of us. And we were kind of concerned because we're not comics.
Right.
And we've never.
It's so hard to think as a comic when you're not a
right.
comic.
Yeah. If you're not like, and so they thought, well, yeah, we're expected to be funny here and we're expected to do all this funny stuff. And I'm like, no. Like I don't think that's the case at all. I think that these guys will just kind of do it on their own. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised how funny this show comes out when you just tape it organically. And then we obviously tweak it with little hashtags here and, whatever.
Right.
So it changed the format a little bit, not tweaked the format of the show a little bit, but it worked. Like it worked and they were relieved. And so I kind of, and at first I was like, what's called a fly writer was really all I was doing. I was just watching. Cause reality TV is not, we all know it's not reality. Right.
Right.
So they tape.
It's a show.
Yeah, it's a show. So they would say, hey, we're going to come up to the door. You guys are going to knock on the door. The owner of this place is going to greet you. You guys are going to have a little bit of conversation, just let it go organically. See what's, what you guys want to talk about, whatever. And then, and then we're going to walk you back to the kitchen and then we'll cut and we'll, do another scene from there.
Mm-hmm.
So we would tape it the first time. I would stand there and watch what went on. I would make notes of things that happened that were funny and then things that would happen that could have happened that would have been funnier, right? What if he had said this? What if he had said this? How about this? Can we do this? So then I would pitch that to the producers, the real producers, the real guys who were like putting this together, Steve and Ross. And I'd be like, hey, what about this? What about this? So then we would tape it a second and sometimes third time and just toss in some of those ideas, like feed the guys, be like, hey, Martine, that was really funny when you said that. It would be even funnier maybe if you said that. And then Gabe could say this and then Rick could say this, just kind of like, feed them, right? Ideas. And it was never like scripted, but but we push them in a direction, and be like, oh, you could also go this direction, make fun of this. Oh, did you notice this thing in the background? That's pretty silly looking. And Gabe and those guys are all so talented in their own ways that you can just kind of point them to things and they all have their own way of running with it. And that's what made that show really special. Was that every guy was different. Like Martine was a little bit of rougher, a little edgier. He would say things that were a little bit dirtier. Alfred has like a real just funny, like deadpan kind of delivery where you just don't see it coming. G. Riley had a great energy about him, and it was always.
It was a good show. I used to watch it all the time. It was, now that you're bringing it back up, I'm like, oh my God, they do stand by side of the green screen and talk their shit.
Don't stuff because they're all so different, right?
Right.
Like, because Rick's the frustrated guy. Rick's always funny when he's most funny when he's frustrated, which is about 90% of the time anyway.
Right.
So when he's like, I don't get it, you know what I mean? Like that's Rick in real life. So he would do that, and then of course there's Gabe, who's just quick with a one-liner, and he's just witty and he's likable, and that persona just coming up. And he just has a story for everything and a reference for everything. So it was a really, really fun show to work on. I didn't feel the kind of pressure that I think you would feel if you applied for a job or you came in. I always had the attitude of like, hey, like I'm going to do what I can do. If I'm going to find out right now if I have the chops to even be in this ballpark or whatever. And turns out a lot of stuff that I suggested, I've been surprised, very pleasantly surprised by how much stuff I suggested ended up on TV. on that show. And the second season, that's when they actually gave me an associate producer credit, because they were actually coming to me then, instead of me just being there when we taped, ahead of time, they would come to me and be like, hey, we've got to figure out how to get the guys from the beach to the restaurant, or we got to figure out how to get from the hotel. What do you have any ideas? Or, hey, we want to do an ending scene where Rick was sick. How can we explain why Rick was sick, or what do you think is a good idea? So I would be like, oh, well, hey, and I didn't like, and the other thing that was interesting is I've never done TV like that before. So I would think of things that I would literally ask, because I don't know if they're possible. And they would be like, oh yeah. Like, for example, when Rick was sick, they were like, well, how are we going to do this with Rick? He wasn't on the episode, but we can have him. I was like, well, what if on the end of the episode, after the credits roll, Rick's standing there on the green screen complaining about how he wasn't on the show, and they replaced him with Larry Omaha for one episode, and he's in his robe, and he's got his thermometer, and he's sick, and he's pissing about it and moaning about it, and he won't shut up. And I was like, can they start actually breaking the green screen down around him? Like, can they actually start turning the lights off? And they're like, oh my God, yeah, we can do that. And they did it, and it was funny as hell.
Wow. Well, what's great about your mentality is, because I bet you like 99.9% of comedians, if they had that opportunity that you had, first thing that popped in their mind was, oh my God, I'm working with Gabriel Iglesias, I'm going to be famous. That's the first mentality. You going in saying this, I'm going to do what I do best and whatever. And that takes off so much. And you took your shot, and look what it did to you. You're associate producer on a show, and you write for him. And let me ask you this. Do you feel it's easy to write for Fluffy because he has a similar comedic voice to you?
Yeah, well, it's easy to quote unquote write for Gabe because you don't really have to write anything. It's not like, say, a comic, like I've heard that Jeff Dunham is a good example. I've heard that Jeff Dunham will actually bring comics in. He'll sit at the end of a table. He'll have comics come in, and they've written word for word a bit for one of his puppets. And they're like, hey, I want to do a bit about so-and-so going skiing. I think Walter should go skiing. And they'll like do the bit in front of him. And he'll be like, I like that one, or I don't like that one, right? If that's what you're picturing, get that right out of your head, because that would never work with somebody like Gabriel Iglesias. There's no reason for it. What Gabriel does is he relates real world stories, things that actually happen to him, in such an entertaining way with the voices and the act outs and the whatnot. So all we do for Gabe, when I say writing for Gabe or contributing, it's really more contributing. It's more like making sure that none of that stuff gets lost. Because look, you know how you go.
You're just catching thoughts. That's what you're doing. You're just capturing
like we're
all
writing
these
down
thoughts.
everything. We're writing down new tags. We're writing down new punches. We're writing down just complete new bits. Because Gabe will go up some night and he'll get distracted by something or sidetracked by something that happened that day, and he'll do 6 or 7 new minutes, and it kills. Or it does well. It does really, really well.
Right.
And then you can. So then it's just a matter of being like, hey, that new 6 or 7 minutes you did last night, you can put that inside this other bit you already do. So it's more like that. It's organizational. It's more organizational. It's more like, oh, hey, I've watched you all week when we've done all these state fairs, and every night whenever you do this bit earlier in the show, it does better earlier in the show, or it does better later in the show, right? Because by then you can do this callback, you can do this callback or whatever. It's like, because that's the one thing is like Gabe, he has so much fun on stage. He's one of those comics. You ever watch those comics where you can just tell that they're just doing what they were born to do?
Yeah.
It doesn't look forced at all.
Right.
No matter how good I get at it, it always is, it's going to be set up punch. Like you can always just kind of be like, oh, this guy's a good writer. Like, and he performs well, you know what I mean? But some people you watch and you're like, holy shit, like this guy's clearly born to do this. Like Dustin Wood is like that. Have you ever seen Dustin Wood?
Yes.
Very you watch funny. Him and you're like, oh, he's not even trying. Like it almost pisses you off. You're like he's not even trying, and he's killing. Games like that too. Where you're like, but I know from how his work ethic really is that no, that's not what's going on. But he is that naturally talented, and his memory is just that good to remember. To be able to tell a story over and over and over again and make that story better every single time. It improves.
Such a huge inspiration to the rest of us comedians.
As comics, we all do that. But, if we get off stage and we have that new line that killed and we don't write it down, and then 2 weeks later, if that happens to me and I forget that I did that line in Plano, Texas that really killed, and then I forget it and I never do it again, well, that just means that 350 people in Fort Worth don't hear it, right? And that's sad. But when that happens to Gabriel Iglesias, that's millions of people who never get to hear that bit. And that's a tragedy, dude. And I don't like that when that happens. I don't, and that's part of.
Well, how could you, as talented as he is, I mean, how could you not forget something? How could you not forget like a little tag or a bit? I mean, there's as a comedic's mind, your mind's going a million places at once, and then on his level, it's a completely different story.
Oh, so, but that's the other thing too. It's even worse whenever we do it, because when I do that, what that means is I was too lazy to write that down in Plano, and I was too lazy to put it in my phone the 2 weeks that I was sitting at home, right, just doing my buddy's podcast or whatever, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying we don't have things to do and we run our errands and whatnot, but Gabriel, in the meantime, what did he do? Oh, he went on a set of a movie and did a part there. He went and did voiceover work. So he's got a million things that he's doing. So of course he legitimately doesn't have time to just sit there and be like, oh yeah, that's right, let me write down that that tag, that punch.
He doesn't sit in a hotel all day writing
exactly
comic
he's
writing.
not in a condo at the loony bin. He's not he's actually doing like real work, like with legitimate and
everything that we dreamed of.
New things to him all the time and ask him about ideas and concepts and what he wants to do next and what he wants to do with his career. Yeah, no one's having discussions with us about our career except each other.
That's hilarious. Like what we're doing right now. Speaking of talking about your career, Dustin, I always like to have Dustin come back up, ask one great question to our guests. So go ahead, Dustin.
What's up, Matt? I'm a big fan, man. I'm loving hearing more about you. This is awesome. I got to say, a very telling thing about you right off the bat is that you're given that opportunity to be a producer for that show, and you didn't instantly be like, you know what this show needs is me. Like, I love that you didn't do that, though, because how many comics would do that? Like, this show's, I would do that. I'm a fat, toothless guy. Like, I'm not adding
cleavage tooth. Remember
cleavage mouth. So nobody wants me around food.
My God.
So,
by the way, that's funny too, because when you're doing that thing about how like people look at your mouth when you're talking or whatever, and you're like, my eyes are up here. It'd be even funny if you're like, hey, my tits are down here.
Write that down, Dustin.
Oh, I have people behind me writing.
Yeah, right. You have Matt Golightly behind you. Which podcast are you on right now, Matt's or Mike's? There you go, the Mike and Matt podcast.
Well, Matt gives me tags for my jokes, so
That's
now
true.
I'm on Matt's.
That's true.
They're down here.
Well, my balls are down here.
I love it. Okay, so I asked this question quite a bit with comics, but it's just because they always have different answers for it, and I find it really interesting. Is what is something, as I'm still a baby in comedy, only doing it 8 years. What's something that you wish you knew when you were first starting that you know now that helps you in comedy?
Okay, comedy is one of those businesses where you can do everything right. You can do everything right. Don't fall in the same little potholes that everybody else falls into. Don't get a big head like you're talking about. Don't trash hotel rooms, burn bridges, blah, blah, all these silly things, right? You can do all of that. You can even kill at the auditions you're supposed to kill at, when you get these opportunities and whatnot. And unfortunately, the way comedy is, you can still get nothing. Mm-hmm. Come into it with the expectation of knowing that it's so much. It's not just that people say it's the right time, right place. And that's true too. But you also have to have what it takes to back it up. When that opportunity arrives, you have to be prepared. So always be prepared to know that you don't know where that opportunity is going to come from. It could pop up in a totally different, it probably is going to pop up in a completely different situation than you think. Yes, there's some where it's like, hey, they're looking for somebody to host a show. They're having auditions. Right. It's a comedy competitions, that sort of thing. You can try to win them, whatever. But understand that it doesn't matter if you win the competition, if you kill at the audition. All these things people say about the backhanded deals and favoritism and agents doing favors for agents and all that, all those things really happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. And if you focused on that part of it and not realize you're going to get a lot more no's than you do yeses, and not all the no's are going to be fair, you'll end up jaded and angry and hating this business pretty quickly. And sometimes it's justifiable. Sometimes some people that's just kind of their attitude to begin with. But even if you're the most positive person in the world, it can grind on you. Like here's what I always say about comedy. It's the weirdest business in the world, because you've got to have an ego big enough to want to do what we do, get in front of as many people as possible and tell jokes with nothing behind you. No band, nothing, no net, nothing. You have an ego big enough to do that, but then you have to have an ego small enough to put up with all the bullshit that goes on in your career, like you know what I mean, like the bookings that go sideways, the shows that go wrong, the hotel rooms that suck, all these things, the miles that you got to put on your car, the check engine light coming on always at the wrong time. Like it's all these frustrations. It's all these things that most people are never going to understand. A lot of people anyway aren't going to understand. But you do it anyway. Why? Because there's something pushing us, and it's the ego on the other end. There's a lot of it that is that. It's that desire, that passion. It's wanting that whatever that is, that it's that addiction to that laugh, to that energy. I mean, one of the reasons why I don't do crack is because I do comedy.
That should be your shirt, dude. The reason why I don't do crack is because I do comedy.
It was either heroin or comedy.
You made the right choice.
Track marks, just bitterness.
I think your family would agree you made the right choice.
Oh no, with comedy, the track marks are on the inside, bro.
They are.
God, they are.
Dude, thank you so much. That was great. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, you're either going to keep doing comedy now or quit, one or the other. But
no, Dustin will still do comedy.
Good.
He's stubborn like the rest of us, so he's going to keep going. Yep.
Yeah.
But you, man, you have enough about Gabriel. Okay, let's talk about you. Let's focus on you. You have a. Oh,
do you hear that? That's everybody turning off the podcast.
Okay, sorry. That's our time, ladies and gentlemen. Want to thank Matt Golightly on the Me, Mattself and I podcast. I'm glad I was his guest on the show. How has being a dad changed your aspect on comedy?
Boy, let me tell you, and I almost feel bad telling this, because when people ask me about this whole thing with COVID and the coronavirus and the lockdowns and all these things, and how comedy came to a standstill, you know, in a lot of ways, as far as touring for quite some time, boy, I'm just going to be honest, like my wife and I, when we got married, like we decided to have a child, and I had planned on putting my career on hold for 6 months anyway. I was like, hey, I'm going to stay pretty much at home for 6 months. I'm going to do local gigs only, 300-mile radius, basically. Nothing I can't drive home from at the end of the night, right?
Right.
So I planned on doing that.
That's funny. 300 miles is like local for a comic.
Oh, Texas. Yeah. That's Texas right there. Yeah. 300 miles. What is that, like 5 hours?
I'm only 300 miles away, honey.
Oh, I know. But that's nothing to us, right? Like,
right, that's nothing. But
I've literally done it in my sleep.
I know you have. I know. But I'm just saying, to the average civilian, it's like 300 miles is a long way.
I know, right?
You're like, I only do 300-mile radius.
I know.
I'll be back.
Yeah. It certainly sounds short, especially when you can't afford to fly. You know,
right.
I'm like, only 300 miles? Woo! But I did. I planned on doing that for 6 months and just being home for 6 months. And, we'd saved up some money and whatnot and just planned it all out. We're like, I can work locally enough and everything will be fine. Like, they're not going to come knocking on our door for the rent. We'll be all right. So then about 3 months into that, COVID hits. Mm-hmm. And me being naive, I just don't, this has never happened in 100 years. So I'm like, oh, it's not going to be, this is weird. This is going to blow over, right? Like this is going to blow over. Maybe another couple of months and, the summer's going to hit and this thing, whatever. 6 months turned into almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. But because I have my own little TABC school, my little side hustle or whatever, it's my own business. I couldn't.
I'm sorry. What was your side? Do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, I have a little side hustle, and so this TABC school, but I couldn't have classes. Basically, you get people together and do training, right? Have comics do training. Well, anyway, I couldn't do that because it was literally illegal to have groups that large get together. Right. So I was shut down due to COVID. So what does that mean? That means that the state of Texas, and then on top of that, the federal government put money in my checking account for 2 years, basically, to be a stay-at-home dad.
Right.
And so you try to find blessings in everything, right? And so when I look back on this years from now and I'm talking to Adeline, my daughter, whenever she's 18, 19, 20 years old, I'm going to be like, yeah, I got to stay home for the first 2 years of your life. And I got paid to be a stay-at-home dad. I got paid to be Michael Keaton and Mr. Mom.
Yeah, right. But you didn't burn down the house and you didn't, did you?
No, you need a house for that. So right. No, I do not.
Yeah. How do you like? I'm sure you love being a dad. I'm sure it's.
Oh, I'm telling you, I mean, it's one of those things. I'm so glad that I waited until, I'm 43 years old. So, we older and later in life. And I came to that mindset. Oh, also I did something very smart, especially if you're going to have a child on purpose. Talk. Who does that, right? You got a kid on purpose? But
You're like, what's a pull-out method? I don't know what that is.
Who does that? That's weird. We had a planned baby, like Planned Parenthood, like literally. What the hell? Not ironic, like for real, like Planned Parenthood. That's so crazy. It worked. Like we got a cute one too. Thank God for that.
Could you imagine like the protests at Planned Parenthood? You're like, what is everyone?
I know.
Tripping
what are they complaining about? It worked out great for me. What are we talking about? This whole Planned Parenthood. I've been pro-choice my whole life. I've chosen not to have a kid until now. Thank you. Good night.
Oh God.
Anyway.
I hope you write that down, dude. That's so funny, man. I've never heard of Planned Parenthood literally.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But I talked to people. I talked to everyone that I could, all the staff at all the comedy clubs I was at, the management, people who had kids, whatever. And I told them, I was like, don't give me the fluffy, like cute, like, oh, you're going to love this, you're going to love this. No, like I understand there's going to be a whole bunch of firsts that are great and awesome. First words, first steps, all these things are awesome. I'm prepared for that part. I'm great. I'm excited about that. I want you to tell me the parts where you have to grit your teeth and be like, oh, like what the? I want to know what the bad man. They told me. I'll give them credit. They were like, oh, you just wait till the baby's sick for the first time. You wait till a little thing called sleep regression, where they don't sleep through the night. Like they sleep through the night for a while, and then they all of a sudden for a week decide they're just not going to do that anymore. All these little things that they told me about. So I was able to wrap my head around that and realize, like, even when those things are happening now, I am now of the mindset of like, hey, this is something that is universal, that so many, almost the vast majority of people go through at some point in their life. It's made me appreciate people who have multiple children at the same time, like a 1-year-old and a baby.
Yeah, like, no kids. Lockdown too, for real.
No, I know. And then you add this on top of everything else, like, like people do that. Twins, people do that. Like they survive.
I don't think they can really do that with the twins.
Yeah, no, people do it. People have like triplets and stuff, and I'm like,
it's not on purpose. That's not on purpose. That just
DNA. No, I suppose not. But I can't, because I mean, like I said, I'm the most calm, positive, try to be the most patient person I possibly can. And there are, of all the days of 22 months, I can honestly say of like 22 months of being home almost every single day, there have been 3 days that were like, oh my God, that's
not bad, dude. That is not bad at all.
I've gotten off so easy compared to what these people told me.
Yeah. That's real. That's a good streak right there, dude.
Oh, that's and I mean, dude, and Adeline's great. Like she really is. Like she's got my mother's name and my mother's soul already. Like I can tell. Like she's just chill and calm. Yeah, she has her moments like any baby where they get upset about something because they're not getting their way or they don't have the words to, they get frustrated. But she's so easily distracted. She's like me. She's so easily distracted. Where it's just like, the TV's not on what she wants, so she gets upset or whatever. So it's like, oh, look, this thing makes noise. Bling, 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 bling. And she's like, oh, yeah, you're right, it does. Oh, let's go outside. And she's like, oh, outside. Like that.
Right. I'm sure that's been hard for her to be on lockdown for COVID. I mean, no one's ever dealt with that with a child. I'm sure that's
funny you bring that
difficult.
Up. Because, it's funny you bring that up because we're finding now through COVID that children not being around other children, she's been to daycare 2 days in her entire life. And one of the days she was so young, she's never she was too young to even interact with kids. Right. She was really, really young. So there's one day that she's been in daycare. Well, you realize they don't just pick up germs in daycare. They also pick up a lot of good things like behavior, like they see other kids. So they
have to interact. They have to socialize. It's a social event for them.
Right. They see other kids doing the simple stuff like pulling themselves up to walk and, and holding their own bottles and using spoons to eat.
They have their own language that they speak to each other too.
Apparently that's the case. So, so I've had to find creative ways to do that. Like Adeline goes to the museum the children's museum, and just hangs out. There's like a little area for like little kids and stuff, like younger kids. So she hangs out there just to interact with other kids. We take her to the park so she can see other kids. But yeah, she's not behind enough to be concerned with, but she's been about 2 or 3 months behind on some of her milestones. But they're telling us that COVID kids are like that.
Yeah, that's not their fault, man. That is not the parents' fault. That's not your fault. That's COVID.
Parents aren't
baby.
going to work, so they're not going to daycare. They're not seeing other kids do it. Plus, I mean, her parents. I'm 43, and like my wife she's not 40 or anything, but she's older too. We don't have any friends with kids anymore because so that was going to happen to some degree anyway. But yeah, like it's been interesting.
What's the hardest thing about being a parent? You're talking about like different stuff that's going to be hard with a child. I think honestly, the hardest thing is having in-laws and other parents trying to tell you how to parent.
Yeah, well,
I think that's the hardest thing ever, especially when you have a great child. What's that?
COVID's been a blessing in that area too.
There you go.
I haven't seen any of those people. I'm kidding. That's terrible. That's awful. I should be like, wait. Yeah, I don't know. I've been lucky. Like, also, that's the thing about my family. Like, they've been super, super supportive. And but here's the weird part. I have 2 sisters. They don't have kids. So how crazy is that? This is like I had no experience with kids before this. Like I'm 43 years old and never changed a diaper in my life ever until Adlin. I had never done it. I always figured the first diaper I was going to change was going to be my dad's.
Dude, I remember the first diaper I changed. My cat, she was, freaking newborn. She had this tar poop and just like oozed on me, like the Venom suit. Just, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, they do.
It's this black tar just oozing on you. Like, get this off me. And my wife's like, Mike, that's poo from your daughter. Relax.
Oh man, nothing phases me, dude. I stayed in that condo in Tucson more than once, so I'm fine.
Yeah, no kidding. It has diapers and syringes and everything there.
Are you kidding me? I'm fine.
We got a comment from Mr. Chris Laird. He said, did Matt's hometown disown him after wearing that Dodgers hat? Do they also know you like In-N-Out or Whataburger?
Dude, all right. First of all, let me answer your important question first. There's an In-N-Out literally less than a mile from my apartment, and I've never been there. There's a Whataburger 6 miles from my apartment, and I probably eat there about twice a week.
Dude, you need to go to In-N-Out, man. You're right there.
I'm not saying it's terrible. Don't get me wrong. It's just what you grew up with, right?
Right.
Dude, Whataburger, it kind of depends on what you want to do. Yeah, because the thing about Whataburger is they have such a variety of stuff. Whereas In-N-Out's pretty much like, hey, like you're going to get, here's your choices, and it's not a whole lot. Whereas Whataburger, let me put it this way. You can get a damn Dr. Pepper shake at Whataburger. Yeah, exactly. I saw that look on your face.
For real. I'm like, I'm going to leave the show right now. I'm going to Whataburger.
Shake? A salted caramel shake? What? Yeah, Whataburger's always doing some weird shit like that, which is awesome. So yeah, that's why they keep bringing me back. Oh, and plus they're relentless with the coupons, and I'm notoriously cheap. So that's So
hey, you know what? You're a dad now. You have to be cheap. You have to.
I know. Yeah, it's not cheap anymore.
It's your job.
That's the joke I do in my act. It's not cheap anymore. It's frugal.
It's frugal. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that I'm a dad, that shit's frugal.
Yeah.
Smart.
We got another comment from Dustin Wood saying the hardest part about being a kid is choosing which podcast to be on. Oh my God. Matt, I can't believe we're here. What's that? Go ahead.
It's not hard for me because no one else is asking.
You're on me, Mattself, and I with Mattself.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, I can't believe
it's just called Myself. That's all.
Myself, by myself, with myself, all by myself.
Let's go.
Matt, I can't believe we're at an hour, man. That was a very fun, fast hour. I cannot believe it. Do you got any words of wisdom for up-and-coming comics coming out? I know you gave some gems to Dustin, but you got any more words of wisdom?
I mean, just as best you can, man. Just try to stay humble about it in the areas that you need to stay humble about it. And I will say this: I have a different perspective because I had a regular 9-to-5 job first. So I wasn't always doing this. So it makes you appreciate when you've written and tried to be creative in like a 9-to-5 corporate environment, and they take everything that you do and they rip it apart, and they take all the parts you like out of it, and they tell you why you can't do things and why this doesn't work and this won't work and legality this and just silly details like that, which are, I mean, they're legit too, don't get me wrong, but it's just it's painful, right? So then it makes you appreciate what we do. Understand that it's almost like, I don't know, when I see people, I know, and it's probably harder now than even when I was coming up, because the pay's less, the opportunities are fewer. I mean, there's not as many even clubs open anymore. Like, you can't put long runs of trips together like I used to, where you could do like 6 weeks on the road. So, I mean, they're probably even having a harder time than I did. So I don't want to make light of that at all, but realize that the worst day as a stand-up comic is still better than the best day working at Home Depot.
Amen with that, dude.
Yeah.
Amen with that. And before we leave, speaking of amen and being humble, here's a prayer from Sam Elliott.
And now, a prayer from Sam Elliott.
Dear Heavenly Father, give me the strength, for I don't have any patience for stupidity anymore. Everywhere I go, I see someone doing something stupid, and I just want to smack them across the head, but I can't, dear Father, for you are the dude of this universe. Dear Lord, we're in a pandemic, and I'm starting to lose my cool. All I want to do is sit in my leather chair, smoke a Marlboro Red, and drink a beer. Coors, America's beer. Lone Star Barbecue. Amen.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for being on this show, and let's not have like another 7 to 8, 10 years gap from each other, man. Let's try to stay in touch more often, my friend.
Dude, seriously, this gives me an hour to be in a room by myself, so I think we do this thing tomorrow night.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to follow Matt, make sure you go to Instagram. Follow Matt on Instagram at Matt Golightly Comic. And also, if you want to find the amazing, the adorkable one, Dustin Wood, you can follow him on Instagram at adorkable Dustin Wood. And ladies and gentlemen, if you just tuned in with us, don't worry, because the rebroadcast will be on youtube.com/Mike B Comedy. Everybody that's watching, and Dustin, let's give a round of applause for Matt Golightly. For being on the show.
Great interview.
No, it was fantastic, my friend. And dude, I'm looking forward to seeing you again, my friend. So thank you for everything. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, now we'll bump it again.
Yes, we will. What do you think? We'll bump it, or?
Oh, whoa. Comedy story.
The way he said it, dude, we'll bump it again.
Podcast isn't that late at night. I'm not in that time zone.
We're not in that time zone. We're not going back to the 70s. All of a sudden, this disco ball just drops down. All right, man. You guys have a great weekend.
Me, myself, and I.
Wow. What a great
It's
show.
me, myself, and
God, it's so
I.
great to see old friends. By the way, you can
Me,
follow
myself,
Matt on
and I.
Instagram.com at Matt Golightly Comic.
It's me, myself,
You
and
can follow
I.
the adorkable one on Dustin Wood at adorkable Dustin Wood. And don't forget the rebroadcast. youtube.com/Mike B Comedy. And you know what? What I learned today with Matt and Dustin is just have fun, enjoy life, ladies and gentlemen. Make that Planned Parenthood and fuck Derek Chauvin. That's who I said. That's right. He's going to get raped in prison on a daily basis. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think that's about it. So everyone have a great, wonderful Thursday night, and we will see you next week. I tried to finish it right when the beat dropped. It didn't work.